For thousands of years, humanity has wrestled with a single question: does God truly exist? This question has shaped civilizations, divided philosophers, challenged scientists, and unsettled some of the greatest minds in history. And despite centuries of debate, one reality remains: the arguments for God's existence have never disappeared. In fact, many of them are built not on emotion or tradition, but on reason itself. Among the strongest is the argument from motion. Everything in reality changes. A seed becomes a tree. A child becomes an adult. A silent room becomes filled with sound. Change is everywhere. But nothing changes on its own. For anything to move from possibility into reality, something already actual must bring about that change. A cold object becomes hot only if heat is transferred to it. A blank page becomes writing only if a hand moves across it. Potential becomes actual only through something already actual. And this raises a problem. If everything is moved by something before it, and that by something before it, then where does the chain begin? An infinite regress solves nothing. Because if there were no first source of motion, there could be no motion now. And yet motion exists. So there must be a first mover. Something that causes movement without itself being moved. Not dependent. Not caused. Not changed by anything outside itself. This is what many philosophers identified as God. Another argument begins not with movement, but with existence itself. Everything we encounter is contingent. A tree exists, but it could fail to exist. A mountain exists, but it was not always there. Stars are born, and stars die. Even the universe itself appears to have had a beginning. Anything that begins demands an explanation. If everything were contingent, then there could have been a moment when nothing existed. And if absolute nothingness ever existed, nothing could ever come from it. Nothing produces nothing. Yet something exists. Which means not everything can be contingent. There must be a necessary being. Something that cannot fail to exist. Something whose very nature is existence itself. A reality that does not receive existence, but gives it. That necessary reality is what many call God. Then there is the astonishing precision of the universe. The laws of nature are balanced with extraordinary exactness. Gravity is calibrated so precisely that if it were slightly stronger, stars would collapse too quickly. Slightly weaker, and galaxies would never form. The same is true for countless physical constants. The probability of such exact order appearing by accident is so small that many physicists describe it as beyond comprehension. Imagine walking across an empty desert and finding a perfectly functioning watch. No rational person would conclude that wind and sand assembled it by chance. The complexity would immediately point to intelligence. Now compare that watch to reality itself. The universe is infinitely more intricate. Its mathematical order is deeper than anything humanity has ever engineered. Why should less intelligence be required to explain something far greater? Science explains many mechanisms of reality. It describes processes with remarkable precision. But describing how something functions is not the same as explaining why it exists at all. A blueprint explains structure. It does not explain the architect. And then there is morality. Across cultures and centuries, human beings recognize certain actions as objectively wrong. Cruelty, betrayal, murder without cause. These are not merely unpopular preferences. They are recognized as violations of something deeper. But if reality is only matter in motion, then morality becomes chemical preference. Nothing more. Justice becomes illusion. Good and evil become personal taste. And yet the human conscience resists this conclusion. It speaks with authority. It accuses. It convicts. It demands. This universal moral law suggests a moral source beyond biology and social convention. A law implies a lawgiver. None of these arguments function as mathematical demonstrations. God is not an object to be isolated under a microscope. If God exists, he would not be another thing inside the universe. He would be the reason there is a universe at all, the foundation beneath all reality. And this leaves humanity with a decision. Not whether every mystery has been solved, but whether the evidence points beyond matter itself. Because if it does, then existence is not accidental. And if existence is not accidental, then neither are we.